Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman has been named the Social Justice Champion for 2021 at the 3rd Annual Social Justice Summit and International Conference. The summit, which is held annually, aims to reflect on the state of social justice in South Africa. This year, it focused on economic equality, the impact of COVID-19 regulatory responses, and it also looked at the adequacy of current policy frameworks for rebuilding better and restitution and the impact of economic inequality on peace and the rule of law. Organisers say that a social justice champion is a person who's moved the needle consistently in 2021 to advance equality and reduce poverty. It further says that it's a person who has shown a commitment to justice as justice for all, whilst galvanizing others to pull together in a socially cohesive manner. Well, joining us now is the Social Justice Champion, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, to discuss the significance of this award. So good to talk to you. First of all, congratulations on this recognition. How do you feel?
Thanks, Peter. Thank you very much. It's a very, it's a great feeling, I must tell you. Because, look, we've received many awards, but the appropriateness of the topic or the heading of this topic of this award and the time that it is given is highly significant. And yes, although the award is given to me, I'm one person. I can't achieve what has been achieved, what that award symbolizes. And that award actually fits perfectly my staff. They've been striving non-stop since the 15th of March last year. Monday to Sunday, weekends, after hours, to the point I'm afraid we're going to burn them out. But they just keep going over and over again. And it fits exactly what that award says, shifting the needle, fighting poverty, making a better life for all. And that's what they've been doing at great sacrifice to themselves and their families. So yes, again, I said, as it comes to me, but my heart bleeds for the staff who've done everything to try to alleviate, even now tonight. So many months later, they're still working. There's a water crisis in Crafting. All the bores are shut down because of ESCOM. And they haven't filled in time. And in so many other areas, there's water requirements, there's food requirements. Children are battling, and these teams just keep working all the time. So I appreciate this award, and I think it's an honor of them. And and the name is so fitting, and it's come at such an appropriate time.
I mean, since you founded Gift of the Givers, you've been at the forefront of, whenever there's a disaster or relief is required, you're there. But most times these kinds of efforts are for a period of time. I guess this time it was different because we've had a disaster and relief requirement for a prolonged period of time.
Yes, and Peter, well, the organization has evolved. Initially when we started off, it was a response to a disaster, a few days and it's over. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've had prolonged responses to a disaster. When I say prolonged, we stay after the disaster and start upgrading or helping the development of something to that effect. But COVID-19, yes, has been our biggest disaster, sustainability and rehabilitation all at the same time. Where the pandemic, we've already reached the third wave, and besides being a purely medical requirement, there's been much more than that. Because the other crisis didn't go away just because of the pandemic. The water crisis was still there in the Eastern Cape. The hunger in the country was there. It was not just visible; it just became more visible during COVID itself. The water requirements became bigger. When you went to the health facilities, they required a lot of support in terms of infrastructure, staff, medical supplies, equipment, and all that got laid bare because of COVID. So in essence, COVID has brought to us the reality of what the country is going through. And even during the time of, when I say food hunger, in June last year, we were in a place called Pedi. The mother takes a food parcel and then says, talk to my children. They will tell you the taste of every plant in this area. They've been surviving on plants. My staff witnessed kids running to the dumps when the dump trucks come, eating from a jam tin or from a peanut butter bottle. But the hardest was this. When a child stands in the front of the soup kitchen queue and says it won't take much food to eat, can we give food for its parents and his brother and sister at home because there's not enough food, there's no food for them to eat. And COVID has exposed all those issues which we as a country and as a population have to deal with.
I just wonder how you fight and how you keep going, because it looks as if it's almost an impossible task.
Peter, it's quite easy, to be honest. Place yourself in the position of the people who require the assistance. If everybody, the people who are going to bring assistance to them said we are tired and there's compassion fatigue and donor fatigue, what would happen to those people? Now, if you were in this situation, you would expect somebody to come and assist you and do the best you can to assist them. And that's what drives my team all the time. The fact that those people are waiting, gratitude that it's not us on the other side, which really is not nice being on the other side. But each day we can see the crisis and the challenge and the difficulty and the humiliation and the indignity of what goes on. And people are patient, they're resilient. And when you look at the patience and the resilience and how they wait, what hope, and you see the hope in their eyes, it drives you. That's why my staff can't sleep anymore. Monday to Sunday, they can't have a rest hour because they don't believe in that. They believe in working because they know every minute has to be used to help those people. And they do it with love and compassion. And they do it, it's incredible. With the feedback we get from the public, you say your staff have been incredible in how they deal with people in this great difficulty.
I guess you came into this with a lot of experience with the work that you've been doing over the years. But in many ways, this was like nothing else that we'd ever seen before. So a lot of learning had to happen on the ground as it was happening.
Yes, a disaster is normally one city or one area or one place, except a war maybe it's a much more widespread. But other than that, disasters are generally localized to a certain geographical location. It's not affecting the whole country. And and in this case, so the rest of the country is functional. You have one part that's affected, the rest of the country gets resources. So you have different types of intervention. But in this case here itself, so many hospitals are affected. It's various aspects. You have the COVID itself, and you have the other crisis, where you have the challenges of no electricity, no water, potholes in the road, unemployment, universities not functioning, schools not functioning, feeding schemes at schools are shutting down, and youth unemployment. So you have a myriad of factors that's together with the COVID itself, and with the job losses and unemployment, and then you get the civil unrest, KZN and Gauteng. So you have, in essence, all these are disasters. It's about applying your mind to say, okay, what is the most decisive intervention? How can we bring social cohesion? How can we assist in the best way possible? Make the maximum of the resources that you have. So it's basically an application of what you use all the time in all the different disasters, but just to modify your approach. But 85 to 90% is the same thing, still a disaster. And the same rule used for one disaster, use it for another, but you modify to suit that disaster.
You mentioned social cohesion. We often talk about, in case of disasters, the physical and immediate needs that people require. But I suppose that over time, you've seen that there are great needs in terms of things like social cohesion and just how society comes together. Talk to us about some of the things that you've seen over time and particularly how that's come to the fore with COVID-19.
Well, our case, you have to be specific about which area you're talking about. You don't have these issues in other countries because our issue is born from a past of racism. Apartheid and racism has ingrained in us that this difference, this conflict, or the differences, or some issues from the past. We still have it. The prejudice. That's what I'm looking for from the past. In other countries, when you go, you don't have that kind of issue. The nations are one, except if there's warring parties, like in Bosnia or in Syria or in other parts of the world where there's war. Then, of course, you have conflict to deal with within the same population. In our case, it's not a case of conflict. It's a case of racism and ingrained differences and prejudice. And unfortunately, a lot of times, politicians and people, leaders who are irresponsible, capitalize on that fact. But South Africans have always risen above the challenge. If one person makes a statement to cause friction, racial tension, 10 others from all race groups will counteract that, and community leaders and people on the ground will come. Intelligent people, responsible people will know that there are no winners. And when there's crisis like this and there's conflict, when there's racial tension or any other type of tension, there are no winners. There's no winner situation like this, like there are no winners in war. And it is amazing if we take the time, or let's take both instances, both the COVID-19 and the KZN unrest. During the COVID-19, you would find more affluent people, generally of a particular color, say, you know what, we've been giving charity to some extent, but we now understand how the less fortunate, the underprivileged have been feeling all these years. It's time to embrace them fully, to increase the charity and do things together. And you would find white, black, Indian, colored all working together for the purpose of each other and for the purpose of those in difficulty. In the address itself, the same thing happened. And you would think that after there was such kind of conflict, there would be bad feeling, there would be hardship, there will be distancing. The amazing thing is, after it all stopped around the 18th of July, on the 19th of July, if you walked in the streets and you saw the people of different race groups, you would expect to see tension. It was like nothing had happened. People got together, there was a willingness to work together, not happy with what had happened, and fix the country up. And ever since then, there's been so much that has come out of that. If you look at all the workshops, the dialogue, the corporate intervention, the community leaders, residents association, everybody is saying, we need to fix our relationships. We need to bridge the gap between rich and poor. We need to fix what's holding us apart and what's causing problems. So as there's been a lot of learning and people want to be together, there's no movement to separate people. There's everything driving people together, which has been a great, great lesson from COVID-19 and the unrest.
All right, we've talked a lot about the work that you and your organization have done over time, and particularly in the last 2 years. But I was very lucky to have met you decades ago when we were both very young and had jet black hair. And I met you because you had won an award as a young achiever. And so the question then becomes, what was it that got you into this life of service? Because this has been your life for most of your life now.
Yes, it's not a conventional organization. Let's make it clear, and I need to explain it. Imtiaz Sooliman didn't get up one morning and say he's going to form Gift of the Givers. It never happened like that. And for write a constitution and have a founding principle. I met a spiritual teacher in Turkey in 91, a Sufi sheikh. It's a long story how I got there. But in any case, I went back in August. And on 6th of August 1992, it was a Thursday night at 10 p.m. They just had a prayer ceremony. And after the prayer ceremony, the teacher was sitting in one corner of the room and I was in the other corner of the room. He looked me in the eye and he looked heavenwards. And in fluent Turkish, and I don't speak a word of Turkish, but I understood every single word that he said. He said, my son, I'm not asking you. I'm instructing you to form an organization. In Arabic, the name will be Waqful Waqifin. Translated, it means gift of the givers. You will serve all people of all races, all religions, all colors, all classes, all cultures, of any geographical location and of any political affiliation. But you will serve them unconditionally. You will expect nothing in return, not even a thank you. This is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. And remember that whatever you do is done through you and not by you. And then I told him, but what exactly do you mean? And what do I have to do? He told me one line, you will know. For 29 years, I do know what to do, when to do, how to do.
Wow. That's a remarkable, remarkable story, Imtiaz. But we're so grateful that you've stayed the course, heeded the call, and have done the work. And I'm sure that there are many that now look up to you and want to follow and do what you do. Yes,
and I'm happy for that. Not because of myself, because, we need to promote goodness. In every way, we need a society that focuses on goodness. Even if people have some bad spot in them or not some good spot in them, we need to encourage the good within that person. And if we keep doing that as a society, keep looking for the good, even if a person that seems to have bad, in time, good will overpower, badness, or I don't want to see evil, but something not good. And that is spirituality, that is faith, that is belief, that is the essence of human. Human is generally good, and God has made us merciful and compassionate. And if we keep striving from now with ourselves, with our kids, with our parents, with our neighbors, with our different race groups in work, in school, wherever, and just keep promoting good and cut out that which is not good, in time, Peter, we will transform the society and we will fix this country. This country has a great future, it has great people, and great things can be achieved. And I'm hoping at some point, all those who left the country will come flying back here to serve this country, as hard as all of us who are staying here to fix it up.
Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, always a great pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on this latest award, which I guess in many ways symbolizes a lifetime of service. Thank you so much indeed for what you do, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Peter, and my special thanks to all South Africans. We would have never achieved this without you. Thank you so much.